This week on the latest episode of The Big Show, we have festival news, award show nomination news, and plenty of movies to talk about. Plus, studios are getting back in the theater business for the first time in 75 years. We'll talk a little bit about all of that and more on the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go.
Experience life through the eyes of a true film addict. Keeping it real with FilmGordon.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real with FilmGordon. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Keeping it real with FilmGordon. Keeping it real. Keeping it real.
All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon, and I am joined, of course, by Sleepy Time. And I'm not talking about President Biden. I'm talking about Charles Kirkland Jr. Charles, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
All right, I don't understand it, but thank you. Welcome to today's show. Shane just shook his head. I did the same thing. We just disregard Charles. Charles Kirkland, man, it's over, bruh. We did it.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Charles, sir.
This is my Shaq voice. I'm gonna do Shaq today.
Okay, man. Shall I just talk to the guest that's in here and ignore you for 60 minutes?
That's what you usually do, so I'm used to it.
Okay. I'm trying to do a show, but, you think we doing comedy. I'm trying to explain to you that we did it, man. I'm trying to give you your props, bruh.
Oh, okay.
And you sitting over here being my homeboy from Newark, New Jersey. Shaquille O'Neal has no place. If we want Shaq, we will book Shaq as a guest. You don't have to do Shaq.
One time we tried to get Shaq to come to the film festival. He had a film that he was producing, and
What film was that?
that was actually the first iteration
Sir,
of the festival.
we were not ready for Shaquille O'Neal in year one. Come on, man. We weren't ready.
No, we really weren't. But
But what I'm talking about is that we just completed the 5th annual LightReel Film Festival. We had promoted it for months. So I just want to say one more time, Charles Kirkland Jr., I, as the festival director, gave you several impossible tasks. And I'm not going to say you knocked them all out the park, because you did not. But what I will say, no, I'm not being realistic. But what I am saying is that Charles not just gave it his level best, but you took on the challenge, brother. So I appreciate you for what you did. Trust me, you're not going to have to do that again. So this year was kind of a one and done. But Charles took on a lot of responsibility, bruh. So again, like I said, man, thank you. I thanked you already privately, so I just wanted to thank you publicly, because we could not have been a success had you not been holding it down over at the Angelica all weekend long, man. So thank you, sir.
well, you're welcome. I felt like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible without the IMF. So
Wow. So did you get a chance at all to come over to the hotel for any of the 7 panels that went on at the festival?
I did get a chance to come over for like the parties that happened after the filmings, after the film's showing, but I did not get to see not one panel.
Wow.
Not one.
Wow.
Not one.
But you got to see a bunch of and the other thing I will commend Charles for is that Charles took on the challenge of the different talkback hosts that came over on Saturday. So you had Cortland Jacoby. Who else did you get to do talkbacks?
Philippe Patterson.
Philippe Patterson.
There's just them two.
Oh, it was just those two.
Yeah.
All right. So did they each do like at least one?
They both did one. Actually, I got Cortland to do 2.
Okay.
And Philippe did 1. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's good, man. So that
I threw them in there, and they got. I gave them, the outline of how it's supposed to go. Introduce the film, watch the film, do the Q&A afterwards with the director, and kudos to the both of them. They stepped right in and did their job. So I couldn't be more happier with what they did. So, not just for the fact that they did it well, but also that they gave me an opportunity to breathe.
Well, I was gonna say, man, the other part of what I love about doing all of these, whether it's the LightReel Television Awards, which we'll talk about momentarily, or the LightReel Film Festival, all of it, they are platforms, man, for young critics to shine, right? So the fact that, not just both Jacoby and Cortland and Philippe were over on your side. I actually had Sam Leggett on my side. So, cool. We had a chance. He actually moderated an impromptu panel with me because we had some time before we had the enduring legacy of Spike Lee. So he came on for about 25 minutes and moderated a conversation with me and the audience that was there. So it was pretty interesting, man.
Kudos to Sam Leggett, because he also was on one of the juries for the festival, and he recorded the jury decision, and it was so well received that the director of the film was like, "Hey, I need to talk with that brother. Can you hook me up with him?" Yeah. And so I reached out to Sam. I was like, "Look, this director wants to have your contact information to thank you for the stuff that he was like blown away. He was like, man, I didn't know it was going to go over like that. Well, I was like, you had great words. So I connected them, and it's pretty good, pretty cool. Cool.
Man. So there was a lot to be proud of last week, man. And it's funny because going in, Charles and I had conversations. I was like, man, these tickets ain't moving the way I want them to move. And we had tremendous walk up, man. To the point where I told you we from our high in our 5-year history, we tripled our audience this year. And we had filmmakers that came from Europe, whether it was Germany, the UK, folks that came from Canada. We had a bunch of Canadian filmmakers that were there, as well as domestically. So, parties worked. The opening night film, the closing night film, everything to my point worked. I think we heard a couple of smaller things that I think we could fix, but for the most part, man, Charles, hey, bro, we did it.
We did it,
man.
LightReel 5 in the books.
Wow. All right, man. Well, if that wasn't enough, man, and I got a message from Black Reel Award nominating chairperson Cordell Martin this year, and I think you should hear this message. He said, and I quote, we're going to move back the nomination date a week next year so Charles can breathe.
Look, it was hilarious because I'm in the middle of programming a film festival, running a film festival, and Cordell walks up to me and goes, hey, your vote is due tonight. I was like, I ain't got time to be making no votes.
Hey, man. Hey, so, well, I would use the man's name, but we will use the phrase, can't stop, won't stop. The person who said that is the man who will go unnamed, but that's what I feel like we are right now. We can't stop, won't stop. So, having said that, man, the nominations for the 8th annual Black Reel Television Awards were announced earlier today. Charles Kirkland, since you wrote the press release, we know that National Geo's MLK X led everybody with 14 nominations this year, closely followed by Abbott Elementary that had 12. I assume you didn't get a chance to vote. I assume.
I did. I actually.
Did you really?
Actually, I reached out to Cordell and I was like, look, can I get my vote in? He's like, for you, I'll make sure you vote. And he opened it up for me to vote, and I submitted my vote. Yes.
Oh, my God. So let me ask you a question, because I, of course, don't have an actual vote, but I get a chance to do a walkthrough vote every year the night before.
What is a walkthrough vote?
A walkthrough vote, because they send me the ballot, and then I kind of go through it. I mean, I cast a ballot, but it doesn't count. But I want to see or experience what everybody else has experienced.
Okay.
So what I noticed immediately is that gone are, shows like Insecure and the Black Lady Sketch Show and Atlanta and Blackish and Grownish. So there are so many new shows. How did that work for you, looking at the changing of the guard literally in front of our eyes as you're voting on this year's nominees?
I mean, honestly, it really upped the ante for making sure that we're watching things, because no longer can you just say, oh, well, Atlanta's the top and I'll vote for Atlanta or whatever. You really need to have been watching stuff in order to vote this year. So I was happy to know that, a lot of the stuff that I thought was really good, people also thought was really good and were on the ballot. And it's just great, the diversity. Now, you talked about Donald Glover. Well, you talked about Atlanta. Donald Glover is no longer in the comedy field, but he's back in the drama field.
And
so,
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So it was kind of cool to have that name recognition still there and know that he's doing. I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Smith was a great show. Felt a lot like Atlanta sometimes, but it's a good show, and I'm glad to see that he's being recognized. But one of the personal prize for me was Michelle Buteau, who's Survival of the Thickest, is making waves from Netflix. So I'm glad to see that that's there too. So.
Well, the other show, and she reached out to us today to thank us, was my girl Diara Kilpatrick from Diara from Detroit. I really like that show.
And the great thing about that is BET Plus finally got a nomination for Outstanding Comedy Series with Diara from Detroit. They had never had one before. That and the Mrs. Pat Show. So now they're on the board in the Black Reel Awards for nominations.
Well, have you had a chance to watch the Mrs. Pat Show?
Yes.
So Cordell encouraged me. He was like, "Hey man, some of these shows you haven't checked out, just check them out." So I had been watching Diara from Detroit. It's not horrible. It's an acquired taste, Mrs. Pat.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes to me a little raw, but look. I was waiting for Charles to jump in and save me. You just gonna leave me hanging?
I have nothing to
Charles
add.
Charles is like. You got that one.
I mean, it is an acquired taste, and I've watched Miss Pat Williams doing her other stuff, and I'm glad that she was able to get a show and do something with her comedy. But it's. Some people like it and some people don't.
Some people like it, some people don't. Well, it's a Black Reel Award nominee this year. So, of course, the 8th annual Black Reel Television Awards will air on blackreelaward.com on, I think it's August 13th. I was going to give a day, but I don't want to get the date wrong.
Is it? I thought it was the 11th. It's
August the 13th,
It's a Sunday, isn't it?
No, it's August the 13th, man.
Okay. The 13th.
See, this is why you confusing people. It's August the 13th.
Okay.
Man.
Got you.
August the 13th, man. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because, again, here in year 8, there have been so many shows that have just been staples, right? For years, it was a lot of Insecure. For years, it was a lot of Atlanta. For years, we had nominations from Blackish. So we had a certain set of shows. And then, of course, every year in the movie and TV movie and limited series, that would sort of kind of like, rotate every year.
Right.
But when you got the comedies and dramas, we sort of had some shows. Like, remember we had the run of This Is Us? This Is Us, 3 or 4 years. So it's a very interesting place. And that's why when I made the statement to you earlier about watching the changing of the guard, and also let's not forget, Charles, before we wrap this up, that we had a strike last year, and there were a lot of things that were either pushed back and weren't eligible this year. Abbott Elementary had a shortened season, and even in the shortened season, they got 12 nominations.
12 nominations.
It was a really good year for Abbott Elementary.
Yeah, I agree, and the really cool thing is, like I said before, Donald Glover, who was in Atlanta, was always facing off against Abbott Elementary in the comedy category. Right. Now they got their own lanes. So will Donald Glover dominate in drama like he did in comedy before? Is it now passing the guard to Abbott Elementary? Or is somebody else coming up? I mean, we have a lot of angles that we can go with on this one.
Yeah, I'm looking at the nominations right now. You on BlackReelAward.com right now?
No, I have my...
Oh, you have your list? Yeah, so, Outstanding Comedy Series. Wow. Yeah. Wow. No, I'm just saying, man. It's just a very different year, man. I'm looking at some of these outstanding performances, man. Giancarlo Esposito is in for The Gentleman, which I thought was a pretty good performance by him. But he was equally as good in Pariah. Oh, I'm sorry, Parish. Yeah, he was good in that one as well, but...
I think he was better in Paris than he was in The Gentleman.
I agree, but, hey, I'm not a voter. So I don't, I'm just going by what you guys gave us. I see that Loot got a nomination in the Outstanding Directing field. Loot is a show that I actually watch.
Maya Rudolph on Apple Plus.
There you go. Now, I have not watched Gen V because, all you folks who watch The Boys and Gen V and all of these shows.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that since The Boys is restarting this week. So
it's starting today.
Friday.
Thank you.
Well, Thursday night. So if you want to be technical about it.
All right, cool. So that's cool. And I see that Boots Riley got a nomination for Outstanding Directing. I'm looking at some of these categories going, wow. Sanaa Hamri is back. Directing an episode, got nominated for directing an episode of Gen V.
Yeah.
Wow. Who knew?
Well, I knew.
I had been watching Gen V, so I didn't know.
Gen V is a superhero show that comes on Amazon, but X-Men 97 also got nominated for Best Drama as an animated series. It's the first time it ever happened.
Wow. Cool. Now, here's a category I want to go through this because this is pretty interesting to me. Outstanding Guest Performance in a Comedy Series. The nominees, and there are 10... Erica Alexander, Run the World. Tatiana Ali, Abbott Elementary. Garcelle Bouvet, Survival of the Thickest. Jordan E. Cooper from Mrs. Pat Show. That's not the reason why I read this. Keegan Michael Key, stop hating. Abbott Elementary. Sanaa Lathan,
yes,
for Curb Your Enthusiasm. Divine Joy Randolph, Only Murders in the Building. Felicia Rashad, Diara from Detroit. She is not Claire Huxtable on that show. No. Not at all.
Spread your wings, Felicia.
Oh, absolutely. Cree Summers for Abbott Elementary and Robert Townsend for The Bear. Now, again, I could probably have my favorites, but there are so many familiar names in that category.
Yeah.
So many familiar names.
The funny thing about Divine Joy Randolph is I really didn't consider her a guest on that show because she's been on.
Oh, she's been on that show like what? From
first season.
First season?
Yeah, she's always been on the show, but she's not on every episode of the show.
So I guess that's why she would be a guest.
Yeah.
All right, another interesting category, because I always love my dramas. Outstanding Drama Series. Now, I love this first one. Black Cake. Black Cake was great. Did you see it?
Yes, I saw Black Cake. I interviewed Marissa Jo Serrar for Black Cake.
So Black Cake, man.
Black Cake is and Adrian Warren from the show. So, I have deep love for Black Cake.
So it's joined in its nomination for Outstanding Drama by The Equalizer, Queen Latifah's show, Lupin, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and as you said earlier, X-Men 97. I never watched this. Is it good?
It's very good. It's extremely good.
Man, it must be Shane is in the back like, Wow. All right, I'm going to have to check. I got some stuff I need to catch up on. I was a little busy the last couple of months. Y'all don't remember? I
don't know what you're talking about. I saw it.
Whatever, man. Now, here's another one, right? Here's another great category. Outstanding lead performance in a drama series. Now, the reason why people are going, well, why do they not separate Best Actor and Best Actress? Well, the person that's speaking to you made the decision about 3 years ago that we would go genderless and we would merge all these categories together. And guess what, Charles? On days like today, it's great because when you start reading these names and going, pick one. So the nominees for Outstanding Lead Performance in a Drama Series, Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka, Idris Elba, Hijack, Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, Justified, City Primeval, Giancarlo Esposito, Parrish, Donald Glover, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Quincy Isaiah, Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers, Sonequa Martin Green, Star Trek Discovery, Queen Latifah, The Equalizer, Zoe Saldana, Special Ops Lioness, and Omar Sy for Lupin. Wow. Have fun with that, Charles.
You know, what's interesting, though, it's 10 people in this category, and it's still 5 and 5. There's 5 men and 5 women.
Is it really?
It is.
Wow. I mean, look, we didn't plan it that way, but that's perfect balance.
That's the way it worked out.
But I mean, look at these nominees, man.
As a voter looking at this, I am like stumped. I'm like, where do I go?
Where do you go?
Where do you go? I mean, I have love for Aunjanue.
Actually, the decision is that there are a couple of people that you could. I'm not gonna say any names. The way I would do it, I would just scratch out a couple of these guys, and then the struggle would be
8 more people.
Yeah, that category is stacked.
Yeah.
Wow.
It definitely is.
Which gets back to the intent of why we made the decision to do that, Charles, because to earn a Black Reel Award nomination now, you got to be good. This ain't back in the old days when you were doing 5 where we'd have 3, maybe 3 really good actors and then 2 dudes we just dropped in there. Nah. You gotta bring it.
And you know what? They are bringing it. That's all I have to say is, I mean, if you look at Black television, it's quality work. There's quality work out there.
Yeah, I'm looking. Nicole Bahari is nominated today for Outstanding Supporting Performance in a Drama Series for The Morning Show. My man Coleman Domingo is back for Fear the Walking Dead. Gugu Mbatha Raw, Loki. That was a good performance. I watched Andra McDonald in The Gilded Age, and of course, Wunmi Musaka for Loki as well. I'm trying to think anybody else. Devon Nixon for Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. He played Norm Nixon.
His father.
In the show. Right, pretty much. How wild is that? He played his dad, yep.
I guess if you're the man's son, you should look like your father. So, you know, that's easy casting.
Oh, man, Sally Richardson is back for Outstanding Directing in the Drama. The drama stuff is pretty good, man. Donald Glover is as a director nominee. And let me try to think. Is there anything else that stands out? I'm looking. Outstanding guest performance. Ooh, that's stacked too. Wow.
Yeah.
Outstanding guest performance, Shane.
In a drama series.
In a drama series. The nominees are Michael Brower in The Gilded Age. He played the guy who operated the newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? Michaela Coel for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Loretta Devine, Kingdom Business. Taye Diggs, All-American. Lisa Gay Hamilton, who played Magic Johnson's mama in this, Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Rashida Jones, Silo. Our guy Rob Morgan, Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Wendell Pierce, Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. CCH Pounder, 3 Body Problem. Did not see that. And, of course, Susan Kelechi Watson for Will Trent.
And her performance really was a guest performance.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I heard about that one. I didn't watch it. I heard about that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, man. Oh, man. And look at the Outstanding TV Movie or Limited Series nominees. Wow. Genius MLK X, Lawman Bass Reeves, The Other Black Girl, Them the Scare, and True Detective.
And again, I got to interview 3 of the 5 people in this category. So you know, I'm happy.
Yeah, man, bro, this is almost impossible. I might have to change this back for y'all because this is a lot. I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm like, man, good luck trying to figure this one out. You know, I'm not gonna tell you. There was a voter in our voting academy who called me one year and was like, "It's just too much, man." I can't vote. And this wasn't even on the television side. This was on the film side. He's like, it's just too much, man. But truth be told, Charles, since we spun this off back in 2017 and we've been doing television has always been tougher than film because you had certain shows that every year were always there. Because I give you a good example. Queen Sugar for years was a show that was always nominated. Now, it didn't win, but it was always there, and it took up a lot of space because you had so much solid talent.
Right.
So, and of course, Ava DuVernay and all of these super sisters that were writing episodes were sucking up nominations. It's hard, bro. It's a very hard thing when you're doing what we're doing. And you really do we're really in the kind of the golden age of television. So there's so many different options, so many different channels, so much content that's out there.
And I'm talking. Let's talk about the ballot for a second. When you get a ballot and you're looking at maybe 40 different choices,
right?
It's hard to select just 10. I mean,
you're selecting 5.
No.
You're selecting 10
for lead performance.
Oh man, yeah.
For lead performances, you're selecting 10. But even worse when you're going from 40 to 5.
Right.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because there's a lot of good stuff out there.
There's a lot of good stuff out there. All right, so let me hit you with another one, man. Documentary category, outstanding documentary. Shane, are you taking notes? This is good. The nominees for outstanding, I mean, seriously, the nominees for outstanding documentary, Black Twitter, A People's History, from my good friend Prentice Penny. The Greatest Night in Pop from Netflix. Ladies First, a story of women in hip hop.
Come on now.
Movie Pass, Movie Crash, airing on Max. And the one that we just talked about a couple of weeks ago, Stacks, Soulsville, USA.
Where do you go?
Bruh, good luck. These are all really, really good, man. That's what I said, man. And that's only 5.
Yeah.
That's 5.
That's 5. You should have seen the list to choose from. It was fun.
Oh, I see my good friend Robert Glasper is nominated for Back to Love from Run the World. Aloe Black and Blue. I love it. Aloe Black and Blue.
How about that?
Change the World.
Change the World.
Yeah. Yolanda Adams with Kirk Franklin as a writer from Grace Amazing from Kingdom Business. And then Yolanda Adams and Kirk Franklin again with some other folks for We Family from BET Plus. BET Plus did well.
They did.
For a studio that had never gotten
No. I said they never had a comedy nomination before.
So has BET Plus been done?
They've been in the mix
right,
before.
Well, they had a good year this year.
Yeah.
They had a good year, so I'm trying to think, is there anything else, anybody else?
BET Plus actually pulled in 14 nominations this year as a network.
You go BET Plus. I don't know if they raised their game this year or there was nothing there. I don't know which one it was. But something happened. BET, you said 14 nominations?
14 nominations. With the Mrs. Pat Show, The Kingdom Business, DR from Detroit, and Average Joe. So, you know,
DR from Detroit was great.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, hey, so congratulations. So, like I said, Tuesday, August 13th, Cordell put the date in there so Charles couldn't pull that. It was on the 11th thing.
I'm not in on everything.
Hey, man. Tuesday, August 13th. All right, man. So, any last words before we segue on to our next topic?
No, I guess that's pretty much it.
All right, man. Well, got a text the other day, and I think did you send it to me too?
I'm not reading your mind on this one.
All right. Well, first of all, it is 28 minutes after the hour. Coming up a little later on in the show, Inside Out 2. We will talk about that. So I just wanted to tease that.
Okay.
But what I was talking about was that my phone started blowing up when the news came across the wires a couple of days ago that Sony Pictures had purchased the Alamo.
Not in San Antonio, the Alamo.
No.
He's
I'm talking about
the
the Alamo Theater chain. I think it's 37 theaters nationwide.
Well,
if I'm correct,
it was. You know, at one point in time, earlier in the month, or maybe in the last month, Alamo closed down all their Texas locations.
Okay.
And so people were like, "What's going on with Alamo?" Because things were all of a sudden just haywire. And then we hear this news.
Yeah, oh, well, you're right, because it's down to 35 now.
Right.
All right, so let me lead by just giving you the story first. So Sony Pictures closed on a deal to buy the entire Alamo Theater chain across the country, right? 35 theaters. Now, on the surface, if you're not in our industry, you're like, well, that's
Big
nice.
deal, so what?
Big deal. Guess why it's special? It's the first time in 75 years that a film studio has bought a chain of movie theaters. Now, here's the question. Charles, what's significant about this purchase?
Well, let me see.
Or maybe I should have had you ask me. Go ahead.
I could speculate, but I'm sure you have an explanation as to how easy it would be for a studio to put things in the movie theater now that they own it.
Well, no. Let's take it even further back to the birth of cinema in the 20s. Back at the birth, every studio owned a chain of movie theaters.
That's right.
And also, they not only owned a chain of movie theaters, but it also had a studio system where actors were under contract. So we talked about, I think we did a show several months ago about Warner Brothers.
Right.
And we talked about all of these famous gangsters. So they had Edward G. Robinson, they had George Raft, they had Humphrey Bogart, all under contract. So they would always develop these gangster movies. And then they'd be like, Edward G., he was like, nah, I don't want to do it. We'll offer it to George Raft. He doesn't want to do it. Bogey can get it. Humphrey got it. So Bogey got it. So the studio system was very oppressive, right? And they paying these guys starting them off at like $125, $150 a week, having them sitting around in the lots, having them appear in some of these dopey movies until they really proved themselves, and then would step them up. So they changed the law back in 1948 and broke off the monopoly that studios could no longer own theaters. So theaters were independently owned.
Right.
So I don't know, Charles, as we it's funny, I was on a call today because I'm going to be at a conference in a couple of weeks for the Film Festival Alliance and the Art House Convergence, right? And I'm on a panel called Letterbox because they're talking about Letterbox now being the next thing that we want to have Letterbox critics that will be accredited critics, right?
I'm going to tell you a story in a minute, but go ahead.
So, there's this fear that the game is changing. The movie business is changing, right? So you and I have seen things, like I've been around a little longer. I've seen some additional changes. But my point is that with the movie business being where it is right now and revenues being down, which is why it was a big deal last week when Bad Boys 4, what was it called?
Ride or Die.
Right? Was it Ride or Die? I get my titles confused. Not Bad Boy for Life, Ride or Die. One of them bad boys. There was a little jubilation because finally, outside of Kingdom of Planet of the Apes and Bad Boys, there were some movies that are actually making some money at the box office, right? So there's a lot of There's a lot of risk involved right now. Bump you, Charles. There's a lot of risk right now in the motion picture world and with studios. So the fact that Sony is now stepping up and they're buying an independent art house, right? So they're not like buying a Regals or a Lowe's where they can slide their movies in. So I'm really not necessarily confused because I'm assuming that this was a thought process when they were trying to buy it, or maybe they're trying to buy it for stuff like Sony Pictures Classics that they may have some control over, or they may be trying to expand their business. Who knows? They haven't really come out and kind of explained the why that you would buy this particular chain.
Right.
So what are you speculating, Charles, that is behind this, and how, as a second part of the question, is this an evolving part of the motion picture industry as the industry is changing literally from day to day in front of our eyes.
I think you're kind of hitting around it. I think Alamo is going to become an outlet for a lot of the films that. The last time I went to an Alamo Theater, they have this trailer run where they show like a whole bunch of different old movies based on the theme of the movie that you're getting ready to see.
Right.
And so I'm thinking maybe this will be an avenue that they use to, show the films that you may have missed before, and going into their classic repertoire and getting people back into the theaters to see things. The theaters are comfortable where you can sit back and relax. They bring you food to your seat if you order and everything. So it's really a different type of movie theater than the regular one that you're used to. And so then, now they get the concessions money and the film money on top of it. So, hey, I mean, it could be a boom.
I mean, let me just tell you something from personal experience. These movie theaters that show food, they're just rip-offs. Ask me why. Ask me why.
Why are they rip-offs?
Because if you sit there and you eat some food, what does 90% of Americans who sit in a warm, dark theater with a belly full of food watching a movie, what normally happens?
There's another theater up the street not too far from here that they even give you blankets if you're sitting there. So you're going to go to sleep.
You're going to go to sleep.
And you're going to miss the movie that you paid all this money for.
You paid the money, and now you got to go and see it again.
Do it again.
And it bothers me so much. Every time they have a screening at an Alamo, now I'm gonna go to sleep anyway. That normally happens. So I'm sleeping anyway. So now, for instance, I'm not gonna tell you what studio, but some studio flew us out, put us in the Alamo. Don't say no names, Charles. And plied me full of food, and of course I passed out. Of course. They were like, "What'd you think about the movie?" I don't know.
It tasted good.
So that's my issue with these theaters.
They gave us a sampler menu. They said just sample everything on the menu and just enjoy the film.
Ridiculous,
and just eat as much as you. And I was like, dude, they know what they're doing.
Watch this. If you want to watch movies and eat food, stay home. It's much cheaper. Trust me. Stay home. Watch this. Now, they're killing me. They're like, how you going to tell people to stay home? Because movies are expensive. We get to watch them for free. So the only thing that I'm spending is some time, right?
And some parking, maybe.
And some popcorn.
and a Sprite.
It's true. But yeah, man. So again, man. So I think now Sony might. There are first run movies that play at Alamo.
Yeah, they're not so. Yeah,
you can best
But they
believe,
also play oldies and goodies.
They do play oldies. So is Sony gonna do a thing where they play some of their new stuff and then go back into their vault and play some old stuff?
Absolutely. Bet you on Tuesday they had that $5 movie and you're gonna see something one of their classics, and then ply you with food.
Man. And get your money again, man. So this is a big deal, and the reason why I say it's a big deal because it bears watching. Because anytime one studio gets into the pond and somebody else thinks it's a great idea, they up next.
Here comes the next one.
All right, so we are now 37 minutes into it.
Soon it'll be What's Your Face brought to you by Paramount in the AMC theaters.
Yep.
Nicole Kidman says, "Welcome to Paramount Theaters." The movie experience is real.
Shane, can you turn this person's mic on because they good? All right, so
what happened to?
Let me finish.
Okay,
so
go ahead. Can I just say something real quick
ahead,
before you? Because are you getting ready to transition to a new topic?
No, I was getting ready to introduce somebody in here.
I just want to recognize that Bad Boys 4 made $55 million in the theaters last week. Number one.
Were you a producer on this?
I was a predictor on this one. Remember we had that discussion.
So
you guys were talking about nobody wants to see Will because I'm like, nah. This is an indicator. This is an indicator of the season, and
And can you share, Mr. Predictor, what the indicator is?
People are still going to the movies. They're just being selective in the ones that they're going to. And
so the Fall Guy and what was the other one that Furiosa? They were
released too early. If they were released in the summer season, it might have done better. But they pushed it too.
Well, we're gonna talk about a movie that's opening this weekend. But before we get to that movie, one of the things that we did not talk about, and first of all, I want to welcome the host of Hypnotic Beats and Flows, which is here on what is it?
DC
Radio. HD4. Look at Shane. Look at me. What, man? We never say it, man. One of our hosts, B. Hendricks. What's going on, man?
His mic is not on.
Oh, it's on. Shane said it's on.
It is on.
I mean, you're doing the Charles right now. This is how you're going to represent yourself. Say something.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was B. Hendricks. I'm glad you got
What time is your show on Saturday night, sir?
He is just a visitor. He is not a participant.
You literally
in the show.
are not going. You're not going to tell people when your show is. So Shane, look, we have an actual host of another show that's on this network. I'm not asking you to do the interview. Just tell people what time they can listen to the show.
LODC. The show is Saturday night or at
Why are you talking like that?
That's his
show voice. That's your show voice?
Midnight to 2 a.m.
Have you never listened to his show? Hey, B, I just want you to know we are video as well as audio, so they see you.
Midnight to 2 a.m., yes.
Is that his show voice for real?
Hypnotic Beats and Flows, yes.
That would be like if I got on here and went, yeah, so like I was saying, that's not my voice.
That's his voice.
That is not his voice. He and I talked all the way down here in the car.
That's his show voice.
That's your show voice?
Sir, what are you talking about? This is how I
talk. You remember we did a show with Shireen months ago, and she did the same thing. What is that about, man? Ladies and gentlemen, you're B. Hendricks, right?
Yes, this is Brian Hendricks, Mr. Brian Hendricks, yes.
That's not his voice.
Which
is interesting. Watch this. Which is interesting because if you talk like that on the air and you meet people, they're like, he doesn't sound the same way.
That's not you. You're not him.
Yeah, that's funny. What time's the show?
Midnight to 2 a.m.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to hear him. All right. Thank you, sir. Is that all you got to say?
Midnight to 2 a.m.
I love this show, man. This show, you get a lot of personality up in here. Midnight to 2 a.m. Hypnotic Beats and Flows with
DC Radio.
Did I mess it up again? I did that on purpose.
You did it good.
I did it good.
You got it right.
Cool. All right, Charles. So, I wanted to say before we started reviewing films, it's 40 minutes after right now, and we missed Hitman last week. What happened? Oh,
nothing.
I saw Shane and you kind of looking with wide-eyed enthusiasm.
We're good.
So Hitman dropped last week, and we did not get a chance to talk about that. Hitman was a film that we both went to the premiere at Sundance to see with Glenn Powell. And what is the young lady's name? Oh, my gosh, she's fantastic in this.
Yeah, she is.
So Hitman is a story of a college professor who is sort of just like an ordinary guy who works in concert with the police department and on sting operations to help them catch contract killers, people who are hiring people to kill somebody. So they have a sting, a permanent sting operation that comes through their department where people are trying to hire hitmen, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy who is the primary in the department gets suspended for 4 months. So the college professor, played by Glenn Powell, has to step in as this fake hitman.
Right.
And immediately, Charles, he finds that this is invigorating, him acting like somebody 180 degrees different from him.
In other words, he loves it.
He loves it. And it comes to him very naturally.
Oh, easily.
And he is catching people because it's not just him doing it. You know, he's in different disguises. He's doing a B. Hendrix. He's got different voices. He's doing all kinds of stuff. And he's snatching people until one day a beautiful woman walks into a cafe. And the famous line, Charles, "Can I have a piece of your pie?" No, is that pie good? All pie is good pie. And from there, it starts this really unlikely friendship/relationship between him and this woman who initially comes with thoughts of trying to get rid of her husband. I thought Hitman, directed by Richard Linklater, who did Boyhood and some other films. I thought it was smart, and it's actually based on a true story.
Based on a true,
a real guy named Gary Johnson who he didn't do everything that was in this movie,
Of
but
course
they
not,
used,
but, you know.
they used his life as kind of like a palette. I thought it was highly entertaining. I thought the two of them had really good chemistry, and I thought the story was really, really funny about somebody who is of a certain personality who discovers that with the interaction of somebody else that he not necessarily becomes somebody different, but he takes on
better.
Yeah. So I liked Hitman a lot, and I loved it when I saw it at Sundance. What was your takeaway from Hitman?
I agree totally with you. This was a fantastic movie. I saw it at Netflix. At Sundance. It's now on Netflix. Adria Arjona is the woman.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Who we've seen her in Father the Bride, Six Underground, and some other things.
She is what we call an exotic.
Yeah, she's a hottie.
Oh, she's a hottie.
Yeah.
Hitman. Look that up. Look that up.
And, you know, if someone like that came into my life, I might be inspired to be a better person, too. I'm just saying. She has that
all I
way.
know is her hypnotic beats and flows would be on point.
So, again, Richard Linklater, who did a lot of different types of things. I think this is his first foray into this kind of a film. And, you know, you go from Before Midnight to Boyhood to this. I'm like, he's really doing, that's her. Yeah, that's her.
Look. Oh, yeah.
He's really doing some interesting things here. I like this film. He directed and produced it. So it's on Netflix. If you have time to sit down and check this one out,
I'd definitely
say
check
out
Hitman.
Hitman. You'll enjoy it.
All right, man. So let's spend some time because I remembered you told us a couple of weeks ago that you saw the original Inside Out about 10 years ago. Came out in 2015, and you were not a fan.
I'm not a fan. No.
And I saw that you brought your daughter the other night to this one.
Sure did.
And so let me just set it up, man, because I don't know how to feel about this because I don't know where you are with this, but Inside Out 2, the sequel. So let's set it up.
Okay.
The initial Inside Out covers a young girl, Riley, who in the initial film was 11 years old, and we met Joy. So we go inside her head, and there are these emotions, right? So there was joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, right? Now, what I thought was genius about this is now we moved the story up 4 years, and now she's 15. And now anxiety, embarrassment, and I'm trying to remember, what was the...
Ennui.
Ennui was what? He was...
That was the
the French, but I'm talking about what emotion was he? He was an emotion.
That was ennui. It's an emotion.
What does ennui mean?
It just means not blasé about everything.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then what was the other emotion? So embarrassment, anxiety, blasé, and kind of... There was one more. Oh, envy.
Envy, yes.
Envy show up. So as Inside Out 2 starts, everything is going nicely, man. Riley is about to try out in high school for the hockey team. Her and her two best friends, she finds out shortly that her two best friends are going to go to another school. She wants to impress the star of the current star of the hockey team, who made the team as a freshman. So she is hell-bent on trying to get in as a freshman. And all these 5 original emotions are there. Suddenly, Charles, and inexplicably, it all goes wrong when the movers move into her head and start tearing up the operation because they got to make room for these new emotions. The console is gone. Here comes anxiety, embarrassment, blasé, and embarrassment, right? And suddenly, anxiety wants to exert control over the joy that this character has. And it gives us an entirely different story, which I thought, personally, was very well done. I mean, so well done, in fact, that I talked to several parents on the way out, and they was like, oh, yeah, that's spot on. that is exactly how a 15-year-old acts. So Maya Hawke in the lead. What is the sister's name from the band? Amy Poehler.
Ayo Edebiri.
Ayo Edebiri. I mean, now Maya Hawke comes in as anxiety.
Right.
Ayo Edebiri comes in as envy. Tony Hale is there with fear. I like this series because I like the fact that Pixar not just makes animated films, but they usually put a little more thought into it where they think through, not just in this series, but in stuff like Toy Story and things like WALL-E. I mean, Pixar, outside of the Cars series, I could usually rock with anything that Pixar. I mean, seriously, I was not a big fan at all of the Cars franchise, but everything else, I mean, Up is a masterpiece.
Fantastic.
Up is a masterpiece. It's a masterclass in that type of filmmaking. I'm not saying that Inside Out 2 is that good, but it's a really well-constructed, well-thought-out piece of cinema that really kind of looks at the angst of what it must mean to be a 15-year-old girl and having
I'm going to stop you there because she's only 13.
I thought they said she was 15.
13 years old. And
I don't think so.
13 years old, and what you're leaving out is that she's now entering puberty, and that's why everything changes.
Well, see, that's why there are two of us doing this, because I can't do all of this stuff.
Come on, B.
Yeah, he's late to the party, man. I tried to tell him that.
I think B will be watching Hitman this weekend.
Yeah, you need to watch Hitman, bro. Hitman is pretty special.
Anyway, she's 13, and she's now entering into puberty, and everything is changing, and including inside her and outside around her, because her friends are, changing, and everything is changing. And so now she wants to be her own self. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you. I think that Inside Out 2 trumps the first version, in that it's much more well thought out. Although I still have some problems with it because I'm a guy and I'm not in touch with my emotions, I guess. I don't know.
Huh?
I don't think I'm as in touch with my emotions. I'm just.
Are you guys hearing this? They didn't make it for you.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it's not.
But I can appreciate it. They didn't make it for me either. But I'm saying, don't you know good cinema when you see it?
So now I'm gonna give you my biggest problem with the movie. And again, I'm saying
it better not be something that you're not 13 years old and you can't understand.
No.
Go ahead.
We're talking about a girl entering into puberty, and in 3 days, the movie is 3 days long. It's about her at this camp, and you can't tell me that she works out all her issues with her emotions in 3 days of puberty. The first 3 days that she's experiencing puberty. So I understand that this is a good representation of what a girl goes through as she's entering into puberty, but I think they tied it up too neatly.
It's a movie.
I know.
No, you don't.
I do.
Because we gotta wrap it up in 3 days. What do you want? What do you want us to do? You want us to leave it hanging, and then we had to come back for Inside Out 3 in like 10 years?
I'm saying they could have made it less pretty in the end. in that if this now let's do this. The movie is not for children. I agree or disagree.
No.
I believe that this movie is more geared toward teenagers and their parents. I think because I had a bunch of children sitting behind me as I'm watching this film who they had no idea what was going on at some points in time with this movie. They were literally asking their parents questions. What's this about? What's going on? So I am under the impression that this film does not communicate well to minors under the age of 13 who are not experiencing what Riley is experiencing.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I call this the South Park Bigger Longer problem. You remember that movie?
Yeah, yes.
South Park Bigger and Longer, there's this certain percentage of parents that see stuff as animated and think that everything animated is for kids, which is not the case, right?
Okay.
So this film has adult themes, which most Pixar movies do, right? Up was animated, but Up wasn't for kids. Wall-E was animated in a Pixar movie. It wasn't for kids. Most Pixar movies, Toy Story wasn't a movie for kids. It was an adult story dealing with adult emotions.
I'll give you that.
No, but I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right.
Look,
that
I'm
may
not
be
saying
why
you're
you don't
wrong.
like Cars, because I think Cars was more infantile in its presentation.
Probably. Look at Shane. Exactly. So my point is any other studio would have made Cars. It makes sense. But Pixar doesn't make those types of animated films. Right. So okay. But let me get back to your other point about they tied the story up too neatly, and I'm screaming that it's a movie, but that's what we call the standard 3-arc structure in films, right? You got to give the audience some level of resolution over the course of an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours. You got to give them something. You can't have them walking out like, well, where did this movie go? Because no studio is going to release a movie that costs that much, that doesn't have some level of resolution for audiences.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that the resolution that they reached in this film, I think, was too neat. That I'm not saying that you can't get
so
to.
you're saying there was a resolution. You just didn't like the tidiness of the resolution you got.
Right.
All right. I mean, and you know what? I would say we could agree to disagree, which I probably will say. I enjoyed the movie tremendously. I really did. But again, I go in with a I'm not gonna say a different mindset, with my mindset that I'm there for a story and I want you to tell me a story. And, you know, I just need some level of resolution because I've watched movies where they leave you hanging or you interpret it for yourself.
Right.
And those movies drive me crazy. They really, because I'm like, movies cost way too much money for me to figure it out. Because if I had to figure it out, I could have figured that out at home.
Right.
So okay, I got you.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Actually, I really enjoyed this one a lot better than the first one.
Well, that's good to hear.
And so, you know, I just, you know, that was my one problem with it, was the resolution was way too tidy for me. But I respect where they went with the whole story. I like the inclusion. In this one, at the very end of Inside Out 1, you got a glimpse into the parents' heads and what they were feeling and the emotions that they were going through. Well, you get a lot more of that in this film.
Yeah, there's a great scene where she's talking to I guess either her friends or this other woman, and they go in everybody's head.
Everybody's head.
Did you? She saw the look, didn't she? What does that look mean? I think it's a very smart concept of what they're doing with Inside Out 2, and it drops in theaters this weekend. So I gave it a B+. I like this movie a lot.
I gave it a straight B. Yeah.
You gave it a straight B?
Yep.
All right, well, that's good. What did you give the first one?
I gave the first one a C.
Wow. You are reincarnated Joe Barber, man. I never forget we were doing Around Town one time, and Joe crushed some film that was a kid's film, and I looked at him and said, bro, they didn't make it for you, man. You're not 5 years old, man. This is not your movie, bro.
But you're asking me for my real opinion, so I mean, you know,
they didn't make it for you, man. I thought it was too tidy. What?
He's a neat
Your mic's off now, Bree. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what you get because you didn't want to communicate.
You didn't want to talk before. You can't jump in now.
So one more time, man. We got about 30 seconds left, man. We're here with the host of Hypnotic Beats and Flows, B. Hendrix.
You did this to yourself, sir.
So when is your show airing, man? Yeah, I know, man. Can you? When is your show airing, man?
Saturday, midnight to 2 a.m.
That is a hell of an endorsement to give me to listen. With a guy that talks like that.
I mean, if you got a show called Hypnotic Beats, you want that voice. You want that voice.
Yes, it's Hypnotic Beats.
I can do that too. All right, man. So on behalf of my man Charles Kirkland Jr. and the froggy voiced one, who's the host of Hypnotic Beats and Flows, B. Hendrix. We tell you guys every week, please see something good at the movies. Inside Out 2 is pretty good. And if you haven't had a chance, get you some of that Hitman in you. And watch this. They said don't get none on you. Get Hitman all over you. And until next week, man, peace. You guys enjoy, man. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.